here. So carbohydrates. So you know carbohydrates are found in great quantities in breads and pastas and rice. So if you think about before a track meet, you're going to be carbo loading. You're going to be eating lots and lots of spaghetti and carbs and simple sugars so that you have the energy to run. So why would you carbo load? So let's dive into what a carbohydrate is. A carb is carbon, hydrogen, and not oxygen. So I wrote out here for you an easy way to remember which is which. So a carbon, we remember CHO. A carbohydrate usually has a ratio of 1 carbon to every 2 hydrogens to every 1 oxygen. And usually a carbohydrate ends in OS or OSE. So if I gave you a list of chemical compounds and you had no idea what type of macromolecule they were, you could look at the ending, and if it ends in OSE, like glucose, fructose, sucrose, then you have a pretty good shot at knowing it's a carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are the main source of energy for most living things. Most living things break down glucose to make ATP or energy. And so that's why before a race you would be carbo loading, you would be eating lots and lots of carbs so that your body has something to burn off during whatever athletic event you may be doing. Some organisms store extra sugar as a complex carbohydrate called a starch. You can also think of things like potatoes. If you say something is very starchy, like corn or beans, that's a complex carbohydrate. The organism that you're eating, the potato plant, stored lots of its energy, excess sugar, in the form of starch in the potato. Types of carbohydrates. So there are 3 words on this page that I really want to kind of drive the point home about. So we know that macromolecules are made up of monomers that are polymerized into polymers. Well, the carbohydrate monomer is a monosaccharide. So let's break that word down. Mono, the prefix means 1, and saccharide means sugar. So very simplistically, a monosaccharide is 1 sugar. It's a single sugar molecule. Some examples of that are glucose, galactose, and fructose. Those would be just a single ring of sugar. A disaccharide, again, that word saccharide is sugar, and di means 2, so a disaccharide is very simply 2 sugars. An example of that would be sucrose. And then a polysaccharide is, poly is many, saccharide is sugar, so it's many sugars formed together from lots of monosaccharides. And polysaccharides are often a little more complex, so animals use them to store excess sugar in a form called glycogen. And plants also use a complex sugar polysaccharide in cellulose, which gives them their ability to stand up. It gives the cell wall of the plant enough structure so that the plant can stand up, so that when you look in the yard, the grass isn't leaning over wilted and the flowers aren't leaning over wilted. It gives them their structure, all because of a molecule called cellulose. So you notice too, all of our carbohydrates here are ending in OSE. So we've only found 1 exception, and that's starch so far, and glycogen. So 2 exceptions. So a simple carbohydrate, this one here is glucose. It is a monosaccharide. So when I said you'll see a single ring, that is monosaccharide. Disaccharide, these 2 rings are joined together. And then a polysaccharide is lots of rings bound together into a long structure. So the key point here is that living things use carbohydrates as their main source of energy. Plants and some animals and other organisms also use carbohydrates for structural purposes. So they can be structural, but primarily carbohydrates are used for energy.